hate speech is used as a political strategy, and it affects those who are already discriminated against. So discriminated groups, women, and also those people who work and engage themselves for an open society. Its aim is to silence voices, to silence perspectives in the discourse, to make other people ridiculous, and also to fight against the political system, the democratic system itself. So the corona crisis, the pandemic, has reinforced challenges already existing before, and it affects more and more also politicians and scientists. About 3 years ago, Germany introduced the so-called NETTZ, that's the Network Enforcement Act. The aim of this law is to delete illegal content on social media platforms as quickly as possible. There are studies that show positive effects. There are other studies that show signs of overblocking. So whether this really has led to real improvements in a positive sense remains controversial. There are other laws and also law drafts that go into similar directions. So it's mainly with the aim to severe penalties of hate crime, also in the online world that are already like not okay in the analog world. Yes, so regulation is really important, and we see that the large social media platforms and other tech companies really have really moved in the last years and did change things, but there are other platforms not really included into this regulation until now. So the whole digital ecosystem and the intertwinings between the different platforms need to be taken into account. And of course, regulation is only one important construction site, like really working and fighting against hate speech. There are so many other measures and approaches that are needed. And when it comes to regulation, we need much more transparency. We need more transparency from the side of the tech platforms. So we need to understand how different things work, but also from the political side, we need more transparency. For example, when they do measures of deplatforming, people need to understand why this has been taken down and so on. So there was an international conference called Unboxing Hate Speech in February this year, so 2021, also organized by the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, and European initiatives discussed exactly this, like what else needs to be done to fix these troubles. What do we need in the fight against hate speech? So we see this variety of approaches. And we also wrote a paper in advance to this conference. So there are many things to say, but I will just highlight a few of them. So I already talked about regulation. Also other aspects that are key is moderation and community management. But mostly important, or one of the most important aspects, is to really listen to those most affected by hate speech and to include these people into political answers. Civil society really needs to be taken into account in a long-term dialogue. Civil society initiatives that strengthen democracy and also activists that do this really need more support, long-term support. We need more political education. We need to fight against structural racism in our heads, but also in our structures. We need more resources, because there's a lack of resources, not when it comes only to personnel, but also when it comes to understanding, when it comes to awareness in the police, in the judiciary, in different relevant sectors. There needs to be people that really understand how the digital ecosystem works and how different things are connected with each other. And we need to observe extremist groups like also conspiracy ideologies that have like really taken a lot of strength now in the corona crisis. There needs to be a monitoring, really understanding what needs to be done to really be able to react to what is happening, because they are not only hate speech like in a spontaneous way, but really coordinated hate campaigns going on against individuals and against groups. Yeah, and political decision makers really need to be more open for a transsexual exchange with other perspectives, with the platforms, with civil society, with analysts, with research, and so on, so that we can bring up all these perspectives together, and that answers are coordinated, and that we can learn from international experiences and practices. So the DSA, the Digital Services Act, is a really good step forward, because it's like really a European answer to many of these phenomena. Of course, hate speech is only one of many aspects that is taken up in the DSA, but it's one of those. And in the civil society, we need more networking, and we need more exchange of perspectives and ideas and approaches. And also we need to encourage each other, because it's a hard and long-term fight. Yes, it's a delicate and a very good question, because it remains a balance between human dignity and the freedom of speech. But if hate speech and the engagement against hate speech is done in a proper way and effectively, then this engagement against hate speech and hate crime strengthens the freedom of speech. Because, as I said, coordinated hate campaigns against individual voices and against groups silence these voices. So this reduces the freedom of speech, actually. So if my voice is silenced because I feel threatened and I don't feel I can say my opinion without having hate speech after that, this doesn't strengthen the freedom of speech. And fortunately, we do live in a state of law where there are laws and prosecutors and people really checking individual cases. And in Germany, mostly it's always a question if something that has been said or written is an insult, or if that is still a freedom of speech and not an insult.